All right, we are live. Welcome back to another episode of Tuesday Night Live on the 10 Horse Monty Fishing YouTube channel. Got a good show planned for you guys this evening. As you roll in here, if you got some questions, comments, whatever, put them in the chat and we'll do our best to, get everything taken care of. And, I'll kind of filter through and see what you guys are shooting out there. Randy, thanks for coming on. I think you were on here one time. I was kind of looking at the history. I think it's been like 3 years ago. It's been a long, long time. So thanks thanks for taking some time out of your evening and jumping on here with us.
Yeah, no problem, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. So last week, I kind of mentioned this backstage. We had Boyd Duckett on, and we talked about the new Major League Fishing team series that's coming out in 2027. And I dropped one video basically about it, and a lot of comments, some of it was positive. There's some guys that like the team format. There's some guys that like the forward facing sonar unlimited, but there's a lot of guys, especially the co-anglers, that were really disappointed, because that's one of the unique things about the BFL format is it's been around with the co-angler boater format since 2000. And then a lot of co-anglers fish that because it offered them an opportunity to just, jump in the back of the boat with somebody and go fishing for the day. There's a lot of guys out there that don't, I say guys, but I mean guys and girls, but they don't have a boat. They can't get a lot of time off of work. Maybe they're financially strapped where they can't spend the money that's required to be a boater as far as, fuel, lodging, that kind of stuff. So the co-angler format was really nice for them, but they've changed that. I know you probably had some time to think about that, and I just kind of wanted to start this off with getting your thoughts on the BFL team format, and what do you think about that?
Well, I did a video a couple days ago talking about how disappointed I was on it. And I'm coming from somebody that has fished it for a long time. I started fishing the Redmans back in 1984. I know you have too. You've got a lot of the time with it. Qualified for the All-American in 84, and I fished it back during the boater on boater time. And then I fished it for the past 5 years, here on the Ozark division, 4 or 5 years. And if you guys have watched my stuff, I've been super critical of a lot of stuff Bassmaster and MLF does, but I've always been, and every single video I've ever done, I always talk about how great the BFL program was with MLF. And I praised it all the time, said it's the best thing going. And for this really caught me by surprise. I didn't see in a million years this particular it's an elimination of the BFLs as we know it. It's not the BFLs anymore. That involved that along with the whole, no restrictions on forward facing sonar. So I am highly disappointed in it, from a standpoint on so many different levels. The heritage and tradition of what, the Redman tournaments were, the All-American, the regionals, how those were a stepping stone to become a pro. The introduction of the co-anglers back in the 2000s, and how great of an opportunity that was for people to test the water and get a sense of competition and learn. I mean, one of the things that have always been great about the BFL format with the co-anglers, it is such a great learning experience for people to, really get a diversity of techniques, shown in front of them. And I think we have lost so much. I've got my opinion on it. I don't know their motivation. I'm speculating when I talk about it, but I cannot tell you how disappointed I am. We can dig into every single part of the disappointment, but I'm not happy about it at all.
Yeah, I didn't see. When we talked to Boyd, he said that they'd been, it had been on the discussion table for quite a while as a possibility, and they really started talking about it like
You're breaking up there a little bit, guys. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. You can't hear me, or can you hear me?
It looks like he's glitching out just a little bit.
Yeah, glitching out. Well, if that happens, that's fine.
Yeah, let me
Let me open the garage door here. I closed the garage door because the cicadas were so loud. That might help out if I open it up here a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
go ahead
are.
with what you're saying there.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that when we had Boyd on there last week, he was talking about how the team format they've been kind of kicking it around seriously for the last several months, and it had been something that had been discussed even further back than that, and it kind of I didn't see that coming either. I mean, I know the numbers had been down for the last couple of years, and I'm sure they were trying to they were just bouncing ideas on how they could get the numbers back up, but the elimination of the co-angler, it kind of blindsided me. And then to have a team format, a team format's something that a lot of us started fishing in bass club. The first time we started fishing tournaments, with me personally, and I think JB's the same way. We jumped in our local bass clubs and fished those for a while, and then we started fishing some of the smaller team divisions and stuff. So that's something that a lot of people were familiar with. So and it's got, Major League Fishing did the team series deal. Bass has had like that one-off team series deal on Table Rock Lake, and it drew a lot of good numbers, had a lot of interest. So I kind of can see sort of where the team thing became an ideal. But having said that, it's a pretty saturated market. There's a lot of like really long-lived team formats out there. There's Anglers in Action, which I'm sure you're familiar with, OMTT. There's you can go down the list, and every state has one or two really popular team trails. So it's going to be interesting to see how 2027 works out. But I'm just like you, Randy. I was kind of shocked when I heard that news.
Well, I think that there's a lot of layers to this discussion here. And one of the things that I've always talked about, and again, this is their business, that, unfortunately, it's not a nonprofit. It is a business. I understand that. But I think that when somebody purchases these iconic organizations like Bassmaster and it's been, Operation Bass, FLW, now MFL, it's almost like there's a responsibility to protect the heritage and the tradition of the sport a little bit. And I always saw the BFLs, Redmans, whatever you want to call it, as part of that tradition, like an iconic bedrock, foundational, it's there every single year. And for that to be completely eliminated, basically just like throwing something to the wall to see if it'll stick to improve participation. I think they are completely, off base on what the problem is here. Now here's a couple different things I'll tell you. I fished with all these co-anglers for the past 5 years with the BFLs, and I fished with co-anglers my whole life. They came across basically saying that, okay, we got to get rid of this. We got to get make this change. Something's not working, and we got to, remove all the restrictions on forward-facing sonar because these guys have spent all this money on it and they're not participating. Gabe, that ain't the way it is. And I can tell you from somebody that I get thousands of comments all on my social media stuff. And it's not just a bunch of grizzled old mad bass anglers that are, 55 and 70 years old. I get from every age demographic, 20s, 30s, 40s across the board. I cannot tell you how many of the co-anglers that I have drawn in the BFL tournaments that told me when they drew me, it's like, oh my God, thanks God I got Randy, because I know I'm not going to be out there staring at the video game screen. I had almost every single piece. When I drew somebody, there was a sigh of relief that they fished with me knowing that I was going to be on the bank. And I had so many people out there talking about they don't want to fish BFLs anymore because of forward facing. And they completely missed the boat on that. If they think that the participation is down because they instituted that 3-hour rule last year, they are sorely mistaken on that. I can tell you that was a huge mistake. It's going to increase the whole financial disparity is going to increase. It completely unleveled the playing field more. I had so many guys that would come up to me at the tournaments also saying, I'm done with them. I cannot get out here and compete with these guys with forward-facing sonar. I don't want to do it. I'm done. That is why their participation is down, whether they want to deny that as a reality or not, because I see that from the diversity of interaction that I get from everybody. No, I'm not talking about a one-off. I'm talking about every single people that I talk about. I think that's a big mistake with it there. And then the whole thing about this whole grassroots foundation, building your way up to something bigger or staying where you're at. The reason that I was able to become a professional bass angler and make a career out of it was because of the Redman tournaments. When I qualified for that All-American in 1984, I got a phone call from Nina Wood at Ranger Boats. Ranger's Boats sponsored me, paid all my entry fees in the tournaments because of that BFL qualification. Guys like Biffle, Jason Christie, bunch of guys started out there as a springboard, and they're not going to have that anymore. That foundational element of the BFLs is gone, and I just cannot believe it. I just think it is the biggest boneheaded, out of touch decision that I have ever seen a tournament organization make. And like I said, it's their baby. They can do what they want to it, but I won't be fishing them next year, and I've fished them for the past 5 years.
Yeah. It's been 4 or 5 years since I've jumped in a BFL, and so I'm a little out of touch on participation. What, over the last 2 or 3 years, you both fished the Ozark division, what has been the boater draw numbers in the BFLs?
It's been, the last 2 years has been terrible. It's been like, what, 50, 60, 70 in the Ozark division game, where it's been 60 to 70 the last 2 years in the Ozark division.
Well, one of the things that
maybe
really stood out at me was a couple of the Toyota series on Lake of the Ozarks this year. They were like 75 boats. That was like, whoa, that was kind of shocker. And I fished the LBL division. I haven't fished any of the Ozarks this year, but I fished the LBL division.
So was last year the first year they implemented the 3-hour rule?
That was this year. But numbers were already going down last year as well. So let's dive into that a little bit more, because I think there's more than just a forward-facing sonar reason. I'm not saying that that's not part of it, and I'm sure it is for some people. Something I noticed this year in the LBL division was there were a couple of the tournaments, there were 30 co-anglers on the waiting list. I know for sure the first one there was 30 co's, so they were 30 boaters short with the new rules. And I think something that's happened that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about is high school fishing has gotten really, really big. So in high school fishing, they require a boat captain. So there's a lot of these guys that have fished, and I'm hearing this from people that I know that are boat captains. And I've got a couple friends that fit into this scenario. But there's a lot of these high school fishermen. The boat captains are former BFL fishermen. They're boaters, and they've jumped in to support their sons, or like my buddy Joe that I used to practice with in the BFL. He's a boat captain for his grandson. So some of those people have been pulled out of the BFLs just because they're involved in the high school fishing. So that's one of the slices. I also know there's been several boaters that boycotted this year because of the forward-facing sonar rule. They're people that, they've incorporated it into their game, and they just kind of stepped out for a year. I know a couple people that got tired of all the fishing drama, and they've just decided, my buddy Scott, he's over in Southern Illinois. He fishes like 4 or 5 bass clubs now. He fished the Toyota series for years and years, and he fished the BFLs for years and years. And he stepped out like 2 years ago, and he's just fishing like bass clubs and stuff because he just got tired of all the drama that was associated with the tournament, that bigger tournament series stuff. So I think you got a mix of, you got some people that don't like the forward-facing sonar. You got some people that are high school boat captains. You got people that are just kind of tired of all the drama and the negativity, and they've stepped aside. So there's more. Honestly, I think there's more than just blaming it or just saying that it's just one thing. I think it's a bunch, and there's saturation. There's a lot. There's only so many days on the calendar, and you've got a lot of guys fish tournaments. There's so many different tournaments to get into now. It's like the BFL at one time, Randy, it was like the Opens and the BFLs, the Redmans. That was kind of what you had to fish. And they were the upper echelon of tournament fishing. Now you can fish all the time. There's so many different organizations to fish. And I think some people have chosen to just fish other stuff besides the BFL. So I think, honestly, I think it's a combination of a little bit of all that.
Well, you know, I'm thinking back when I quit with the BFLs. That was about the time that I wouldn't say college was taking off, but you know, those when I started fishing BFLs, and Gabe, you kind of same. It was to learn a lake, right? Like I was fishing as a co to help myself get better at Kentucky Lake, get better at Southern Illinois lakes, and then also just to get out on the water. Not that we don't have our own boats, but it was just to learn new bodies of water. That doesn't exist anymore on the coast side. Like the coast aren't investing or they're not fishing the coast side. They're just going straight into the boater side. Whether that's technology, whether that's just I think that can attributes to the high school and the college fishing. All those high school anglers that have came up. I mean, I know when I was, and I'm the youngest one in this group. When I was in school, it wasn't cool to fish. Like I wasn't the cool kid because I was at the lake every Saturday and Sunday. Like I was the outcast. So, but now it's cool to be out on the lake every Saturday and Sunday. So a lot of those kids are going straight into the boater side of things instead of going to the co. So co numbers were in 14 when we started co numbers. We were always on a wait list as a co angler. And then it got to the point when I stopped fishing them, it was just the opposite. They were trying to find boaters. So
yeah, and they had boater on boater draws.
It's been doing this for a long time, that up and down trend. So, but I've never seen it this low. This low is ridiculous.
Well, Randy, I think there's three main factors. Yeah, I think there's three factors involved here. You made a good point. Number one, there's too many tournaments. And I think that MLF, without a doubt in my mind, has cannibalized itself. They got the Toyota Series, they got the Tackle Warehouse, they got the Bass Pro Tour, and formerly the BFLs. And before, when BFL was like at the top of this game, you didn't have that. I think they started like the Everstarts and the Golden Blends back in the day. But when you got, all those different tournament circuits, like, especially Tackle Warehouse and Toyota Series, that are basically BFL anglers that have transitioned over that, your pool gets smaller. And then on top of the other thing, I mean, let's just be honest with it. The BFLs are a money pit. I mean, if you don't make the top five, I don't even care. Even if you live close to home, you're going to lose money. So that's another factor. And then I know you guys were saying, that you don't really know how big of an impact forward facing has. I think forward facing has a bigger impact on all this stuff than what people are acknowledging. And I say that not because of my personal bias against it. I say that just from the data that I receive from my own viewers. I mean, I've got 1.5 million YouTube views every month. I got 8.5 million Instagram and Facebook views every month. So I get more comments than MLF or Bassmaster do on their site. So I get a big slice of the demographic from all angles. Now, there are some guys that love it. You guys know it. There's 20% of the bass anglers in this country that are all in on it. No restrictions. That's their deal. But I don't, from my own information that I get from a totally, if I step back and look at it a non-biased, non-viewpoint colored perspective, I see the massive opposition against this that's having a direct impact on MLF, and it has the last couple of years. That not only that, the people I talk to in person, I do not think you can discount that. But on top of that, there's just too many tournaments. There is. And that's one of the things that, and people talk about competition being great for the business world. It ain't in bass fishing. Competition, the increase in the sheer number of circuits and tournaments in this country has directly harmed professional fishing. It's difficult. It's more difficult now than it has ever been to make a living in the sport. It's more difficult to obtain and secure and keep meaningful financial sponsorships. And that's because the pie is cut in too many pieces. So in that way of looking at it, this has been this increase in tournaments and all the different circuits MLF has got, high school, college, Toyota Series, BFLs, Tackle Warehouse. There's just too much. It's like we need to get back to more. I always said it's like if MLF wants to succeed, and I've talked about this in my videos. If they would get rid of the Bass Pro Tour, get rid of the Toda Series, get rid of Tackle Warehouse, and go all in on BFL and own it and make the BFL the focus of their organization, they would have a freaking cash cow they would not believe, because they have the support of the people, and the participation is there, but they don't look at it the right way, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So back to the viewers, and I'm going to push back just slightly, but honestly, you said you have roughly 10 million views a month. I would say that a lot of the people that leave comments and stuff on your channel are against forward-facing sonar. So, I mean, is that a like a real sample of the complete tournament bass fishing? Do you feel like that? I mean, I'm being serious. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this, because I see I know a lot of people that use forward-facing sonar and like it, and there's different ways to use forward-facing sonar. I'm not talking about guys that just go out and ping a minnow all day long. My buddy Mike Marfeld, he just got forward-facing sonar last year, and he fought it. He's old school. He's in his 50s. He's a jig fisherman, Lake of the Ozarks guy. He loves skipping docks, but he fought it, and he has incorporated it into his game in a manner that makes sense to him. He's using it a lot for just finding pieces of brush, like stumps and brush piles, and he's able to cast into that brush and be more accurate and put his bait around cover more efficiently. But I think, as a perspective, your channel gets a lot of a certain demographic of people, but I also think that as a whole, there's a lot more people that, not a lot more than not, there's plenty of people that support the technology too. So I almost think you'd have to get like a real world perspective of everything. You'd have to take, I don't even know, there's no way to really do this, but you'd have to take somebody's channel that is promoting forward-facing sonar, whoever that is. I don't know who that is. And then somebody that, like you, that has a channel that talks about it in the not greatest fashion, and kind of mix those numbers together and see where it all kind of shakes up. It's hard to really tell from my perspective, what's the real feel of the complete tournament, fisherman.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, honestly, Randy, you're not getting the guys that are 100% pro forward-facing sonar watching your channel as much as the against forward-facing sonar demographic. I mean, you'd have to agree with that, correct?
Well, there's actually four types of fishermen in the country right now. So when it comes to forward facing, you got the people like myself that are completely against it and want it completely banned, period. You got the other anglers out there that have it, but they don't really know how to use it. They got it. Their dealer talked them into buying forward facing, but I talked to a lot of them. They got it, but they don't use it. They don't like to use it. They can't figure it out. Then you got the third group that uses it because they have to compete, but they do it disgruntledly. And there's a lot of top pros out there like that. You're talking guys like Swindle and Hackney and some guys like that. If it was up to them, they'd want it banned, but they know they have to use it to compete. And then you got the guys out there that are just all in, and it doesn't make any difference if AI is integrated in it or if there's freaking the robots coming or whatever. They're all in for tech. So there's different levels to people's opinion on that. But in my perspective, and every day I try to look at this from like a third party perspective, not colored by my own opinion. And I see that I've got 70% of the people that watch my YouTube videos that are not subscribed. So I get a lot of people on there that just come on casually to troll. And from my best guess, without being biased, without being, if I just looked at it completely neutral from a nihilistic point of view, I think there's about 75% of the people out there that are completely against it. And some of those people that are against it may be a little bit apathetic to it and not real passionate one way or the other. Mm-hmm. And then I think you got 20 to 25% of the people of the bass fishing public that just love it. So that's my best guess, without like trying to push the scale based upon my own personal opinion, just from the feedback I get.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
I
hard.
would say
it's hard
there's
to
one
do.
more category, not to cut you off here, Gabe, but there's one more category. And then there's the whole group of fishermen and fisher women that don't have a clue and don't care.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
mean like
I mean,
bank fishermen? That's
You're
actually the
you're
biggest
just
demographic
not
of
even
fishers.
that, like your casual anglers, just that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
go out on the
We get
weekend and
so
fish.
we're so tunnel visioned on bass tournament fishing, and we're just like this small little niche of people. There's like the fishing community is they don't even care about bass tournaments. Like your bank fisherman, your pond fisherman, the person that just casually goes fishing. That's like the biggest demographic of people that actually fish.
Mm-hmm. It
So
is.
they don't have
I get that a lot. I mean, a lot of people are completely not interested in tournaments, but with that being said, tournaments have such a huge influence on even sport
true.
fishing and non-tournament angling. And that's why you see all these dudes, like when I go to Stockton Lake, like I was up there today, every single dude up there that crappie fishes has got live scope on a 3 foot pedestal in the front of their boat with 2 butt seats up there. And that's a direct, product of tournaments bringing it in there.
Yeah, I've noticed. Okay, so here's a question: since you don't have forward facing sonar, have you noticed that fish are becoming harder to catch on Table Rock? I'm assuming. Would you call Table Rock your home lake? Is that where you spend most
Yeah.
of your time? Or okay,
Yeah.
have you
I
noticed
think
like
a lot.
because me and JB have talked about this before. Have you noticed that areas that used to hold fish don't hold fish as well as they did, or maybe they're there and they're just tougher to catch? Have you noticed some changes over the last couple of years that may or may not have something to do with forward facing sonar?
Yeah, I have fished Table Rock regularly since the late 1970s. I've got thousands and thousands of days on it. Winter, spring, summer, fall, all 4 seasons. I heard Mike McCullen talking about this very same thing I'm getting ready to tell you. I have got the seasonal movements of bass. I know Table Rock so well. I've got dozens of places where every single spring, summer, winter, fall, I could go to these places and catch them. And, sometimes I'd catch 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 20, but you could catch them every single time. The last 2 years, and I've heard McClellan say the same thing about Table Rock. The last 2 years, those fish are gone. They're not there. I've got places that I have whacked them on. I'm not talking 1 or 2 times. I'm talking about when it gets to be the third week of January and the water temperature is 47 degrees, I can go catch 15 on a jerkbait off it every single year. Those fish are gone. And I think it's the fact that they're just not there. I think that there are fewer bass in our lake than we have ever had before. And I've talked about this in my video. I think there's more people keeping and eating bass than ever before. I see it all the time. I think there's a tremendous amount of bass that are dying from bear trauma issues, from forward facing, getting caught deep a lot. The amount of tournaments that we have on there, just the delayed mortality from those tournaments. I simply don't think we have the population. And I think the fish they're just getting to be more educated. And that's why you've got so many of these wolf packs and lone rogue fish that are just roaming out in the middle of nowhere trying to escape some of that. But I hear and I hear these fisheries biologists talk about this and the way that they approach it. I am in such disagreement with a lot of the quote experts on that, simply because of my own personal experience on fishing the lake for over 50 years. I think that there's a serious problem that we have that hasn't been addressed with that.
I think it'd be
I think the
interesting,
two main
Randy.
factors.
I think it'd be interesting to. I agree. I've seen a little bit of that on our lakes, and I have forward facing sonar. I grew up fishing traditionally, and I still I mix it all up. I like all of fishing. I like all the different aspects of fishing. I think I'm curious if I can catch fish on this bait on a certain day and another bait on a certain day. As a content creator, I'm trying to keep it fresh, and just it helps me when I'm out on the lake. I don't get bored. I'd get bored if I just threw a jig head minnow all the time. I'd get bored if I just drug a jig all the time. So I mix it all up. I like to just keep it kind of open. It keeps it more fresh for me. So I incorporated it all. But something that I have noticed, I really noticed it this year, is Lake of Egypt, which is over in Southern Illinois. I go over there maybe once a month or something like that. But there's an area where I've caught some fish last year on a jig head minnow. And when I was over there a month ago, those fish, when you threw that jig head minnow, and I'm not talking about throwing it up in the air, I'm talking about a nice soft cast where it barely splashes on the water, they would swim. They would swim off. Like they were scared of that minnow. They had seen, and I'm not talking just a couple. I'm talking about like 90% of the fish that I would throw at, they would freak out. I mean, they would actually, and I'm the boat's sitting in 25 feet of water, so they're like 20 feet down. It's not like they're right on the surface. But as soon as that minnow fell like 5 feet and they saw it, they were scared to death. So they were still in the area, but they wanted nothing to do with that minnow at all. So my question is, or my analogy is, what if somebody was to go into those areas that you're talking about where you used to always catch them on a jerk bait? And I got areas like that too. There's a couple areas on our local lakes where if I just needed to catch a fish just to get my line tied, I could go there and catch fish. And the last couple of years, I haven't been able to do that. And I'm actually looking, and they're not there. But I'm curious if somebody was to go with you or behind you in a boat and kind of let you fish down that area where you caught them in the past on a jerk bait and not be getting those bites, and you're thinking the fish have vacated. If they come through there with the front looker, would they see the fish? They're there and they're just so pressured that they're not biting because they've been bombarded for the last 2 years, or if the fish are actually gone. That'd be interesting, like an interesting test.
Yeah, it depends on the cover and the structure and the time of the year. But let me give you an example to your point there. I've got this one magic spot on Table Rock that I have fished for probably 45 years. And what it is, and I don't ever fish it if there's any boat around. I would never let a boat see me on this spot, so I never fish it. It's so good that time of year, like January, February. What it is, it's this creek channel bank that runs. It's only about probably 50 yards long, and this creek channel bank, it's got about a 45-degree angle slope, drops off into the channel, and there's a bunch of submergent timber there that rises to about 20 foot at the top. I'm talking about for 40 years, not like 95% of the time, 100% of the time during that time of year, I can go there on a jerk bait and always catch 5 to 10 fish every single time. The last 2 years, I have not caught a bass off of that spot after catching them for 40 years in a row. I can see them before on my TV. I can see them down there, in the top of those timber tops, and they are gone. Those fish are not there. So if you've got a piece of hard structure that has everything the bass could want, you got cover, you got immediate access to deep water, you got an adjacent flat point close to it, you got docks close to it, you got every conceivable piece of opportunistic cover and bait for a bass to be there. Textbook. And if those bass are gone, and they have been for 2 years, that is something that we need to address. And I heard Mike McCullough saying the same thing, that he's got places down there that they were on forever and they're simply gone. They're not there anymore. And a lot of people just dismiss that and push it under the rug. And I think that's a bigger conversation we need to have. It's not just that. Anytime I do a video on that, I get people from all over the country, Lake Norman, Sam Rayburn Lake, Gunnersville, Lake Cumberland, everywhere they say the same thing. So we got a bigger problem with fishing right now than a lot of people acknowledge. And I think about that stuff a lot. A lot of people don't really want to think about it. They just want to go out and have a good time. They got their day off. They don't want to think about the problems of the sport. I get that disconnect a little bit, but it drives me crazy, man.
Yeah, like Scott was saying right here, here's a comment. He said, forward-facing sonar is not the sole cause of tougher fishing. Fishing pressure has increased dramatically, especially during the middle of the week. My buddy always asks if anyone works. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I show up on the lake at like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday,
True.
And there's like 20 boats in the parking lot in a parking lot that only holds 30 on these little small lakes. People are, I guess maybe we've grown the sport too much almost. It's becoming something. I mean, COVID had a lot to do with that, I think, A lot of people were off work, and there was more time to go out there and explore. But these fish,
people discovered tournament fishing during COVID. It seemed like, or fishing in general, and then and Gabe, you and I have had this conversation at length. Like the amount of tournaments, the amount of tournament pressure. It doesn't matter if we're talking Table Rock, Lake of the Ozarks, Guntersville. You go to Guntersville on a Tuesday, and there's probably 4 tournaments going out of any given ramp.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, our little local lake has suffered greatly because of tournament pressure.
Yep.
When you have a 1,800 acre fishery that has a tournament on Wednesday night, that's 40 boats, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, out of both ramps on a 1,800 acre fishery, like that's one little arm at Table Rock, Randy. Like, and you take all of that pressure and just kill a lake. And not for nothing, they're riding around aluminum boats with coolers, poorly aerated live wells, makeshift live wells. You know, you're not riding around in a Phoenix with a great live well system. You got a cooler that some redneck wired up to work.
Yep. I definitely think that the lake managers and a lot of the fisheries managers and conservation departments are failing us right now in that sense, because here's the problem that you have with it. And I've talked about this before, and I firmly believe it. You see these big catches we have now, and the weights are good, and you see 20-pound bags and all this stuff. This is actually an illusion that this fishing is better than what it is, because this illusion of the better fishing has been enabled by not only electronic technology, but a higher overall educated population of fishermen, lure technology, and everything like that. So it creates this again, an illusion that fishing is better than what it is. And here's how you can equate that. If you go back, let's say, for example, you take my tackle box from 40 years ago, which I'm going to have, a live rubber skirted spinnerbait. I'm going to have a black jig with a black pork frog on it, maybe a 6 or 7/8 bomber, a spoonbill rebel minnow, and a jig and spoon or something like that. If you take the same lure selection and then you've got a 2D flasher, you got a paper map, you don't have this highly educated bass fishing public. Back then, the only information we had was from articles in Bassmaster magazine that were written by outdoor writers that thought they knew more about fishing than what they did. And you put that same equipment on the lakes today, you would see the reality of what we're up against. And back then, you still caught a lot of good fish on them. But I can promise you guys, if you and I went out tomorrow at Table Rock, and I gave you 20-pound monofilament line, a half-ounce black jig with a number 1 black frog, and the baits I just talked about, we would freaking struggle to get a bite for a week on there, and you would think there's no fish in the lake. But now you got an unlimited amount of lure categories. You got high-tech lures. You got realistic stuff. You got fluorocarbon line. You got mapping. You got all this type of stuff that creates this illusion of better fishing. So I hear the fisheries managers talking about they do samplings at the lake about how many fish are being caught, and that's how they get a lot of their info as one aspect of it. But I don't think they take that in consideration with it. And I just know from somebody that I'm on the water all the time, and I got buddies that are on the water all the time, and I just know what I'm hearing on the ground. And I just think I got a good pulse on it in that terms, and that's what I try to relate on my stuff.
So you think more people are keeping bass now?
Oh, absolutely. I'm telling you right now, there are more people putting a knife to bass now than they've ever been. And what I've talked to these guys, I see them flaming out bass, spotted bass, and largemouth all the time at Table Rock Lake. And there's a couple of different things. Number one, they think there's an infinite number of bass on the lake, and they think that they've spent $500 on a rod and reel. They got to have something to show for it. And they think, nobody's going to tell me what I can do if I can, eat bass or not. And just because you suggest that, I'm going to eat even more. I see bass carcasses at the ramp. I think there is a ton of people that go out at night and catch fish, lay them out. I think there's more bass getting killed by people eating them than ever, and more bass getting killed by delayed mortality. I don't know if you guys have heard Ned. You guys know who Ned Katie is? The the Ned rig's named after.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ned is like this genius with the whole barotrauma issue, and he emails me all the time about the effect that barotrauma has on bass as far as damaging their internal organs and their eyes that causes delayed mortality from being taken out of deeper water. I think that's going on. I think that the sheer number of tournaments and gut hook bass and foul hook bass is killing a lot of fish. I think we have a far bigger problem than what we're realizing, and I think it's all covered up and masked by technology, thinking it's better than what it is. And I think the bubble is going to explode one day.
I can see.
Like
I was just going to say, around here, we don't fish a lot of deep lakes, but I know on Table Rock and Bull Shoals, Norfolk, Beaver, those type of Dill Hollow, there are a lot of fish caught in that 25 to 50 foot water depth, and people that your casual fishermen may not know to reel those up slow. I mean, I remember JB when we were fishing with Dell. We fished with Dell Coven a couple times down there on Bull Shows, and anytime we'd hook a fish, he'd say, bring them up slow, because we were just wanting to get it up and see what it was. And we're catching fish in like 40 feet of water, but he made us like really slow down. There's a couple times where we caught a walleye, and you'd pull a walleye up and his stomach would be coming out of his mouth because he was caught way down there deep. So that's the delayed mortality that we have isn't the same as what you would experience on Table Rock. Our delayed mortality is from what JB was talking about. It's like all these tournaments you're catching, and most of the time we're targeting and bringing back the bigger fish in the body of water too. So that's a negative impact too. But a lot of the delayed mortality we have is because of these John boats and stuff that have hot live wells, and they swim off. You revive them and they look good, and 2 days later they die and they sink to the bottom of the lake, and you don't even know what's going on. But I've noticed it's harder to catch these lakes over there. You used to catch some 5s and some 6s fairly, in a season. I'd catch, I don't know what the number is, but you could catch a 23 to 25 pound bag multiple times during a year. It's not, you can't hardly do that over there. Like a 4.5, 5 pounder is a pretty good one over there. Those same lakes back in the 90s, it took a couple 8 pounders to win those tournaments over there. So it's, lakes do naturally fluctuate, throughout seasons and stuff. You have a couple bad spawning cycles, but I'm 100% sure. And we've talked about it, and I'm convinced that it's got to do with tournament pressure and delayed mortality is the reason you're not seeing those 5 and 6 pounders in these small lakes in our area. So I hear that.
And if you scale it up, it's happening on all the lakes too, right?
Sure, sure.
It's not just happening on our little 1,800 acre lake. It's happening on the Table Rocks, the Bull Shoals, the any big lake that's in the nation right now. So
back to what you're saying about people eating bass. Another reason I know this is happening. I've done 3 or 4 videos on that very topic. Guys, you would not believe, if you look back at some of those videos I've done on it, go look through the comments on there. There are hundreds of people that come on there and freaking go off on me like I got horns growing out of my head. You're not going to tell me if I can keep a bass. I catch and release in Greece, and on and on and on about, I'll keep my limit every day. I only keep 5 or 6 a day. I'll keep a limit of spotted bass. I don't care if they're 12 inches or 12 pounds. If it's legal, I'm flaying it out. I'm talking hundreds of comments from guys like that are bass eaters. And that's just part of the deal that you're talking about with delayed mortality. But I don't think, like, it goes back to the conservation departments. I don't think the conservation departments, they go by their data that they have and all that. And I've talked to a lot of them, but I don't think they are connected to what I'm talking about here as far as the on the ground, sentiments from the people that are actually fishing. And like I said, I get this reaffirmed from a lot of people around the country. I just think it's a huge problem that we sort of just like turned a blind eye to.
Yeah. So you're saying these people, I think you should definitely harvest, a certain amount of fish in a lake. That creates, you'll see Table Rock's different, but how many times have we been to a farm pond where everybody just threw everything back and all the bass are like 10, 11 inches long. They're all stunted. Well, if you harvested those, that would make a difference. So I'm okay personally with people harvesting, a certain amount of bass. Definitely not bass that are, 3, 4, 5 pounds. I hate that. Nothing turns my stomach like seeing somebody throwing like 5-pound bass and putting a knife to them. That disgusts me. But I think there's a place for people to keep like, 14, 15-inch bass. But if they're doing it, like you said, Randy, every day, that can have, one of the problems I've heard about guides, crappie guides, going out multiple trips a day, year after year, taking clients out and keeping 30 crappie per person, per 2 to 4 people in a boat, 2 trips a day. You do that in a couple of years, and you got numerous guides doing that on a lake. That can definitely put a dent in the lake. But I think you got to harvest some fish. But just like anything else, moderation is the key.
But I think to both of your points, though, we're talking about the conservation departments, and they have to go off of facts, right? And their facts don't come in from your opinion or my opinion or Gabe's opinion. It comes through years and years and years of studying and seeing the trends of a fishery. They can't get that data in a year, 2 years of how our fishery is performing, because it could, like you said, Gabe, it could have been a bad spawn. It could have been a high water situation. Now, obviously, tournament pressure, forward-facing sonar, fishing pressure in general has taken a toll on our lakes. 100% agree with that. I think all three of us can agree on that. But to know what that impact is, that's a multi-year investigation, if you will, I believe.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the data and sampling that they have is based upon surveying anglers at the ramps. And that is, you can't believe what those guys say. Because, I mean, how do you know they're even telling the truth with it? And another thing with that.
You mean fishermen lie?
Another thing with that is like, this is what they don't understand. It's like, when you talk about if you can put a dent in the bass fishing population, we are dealing with the information and the skill level of even the average or beginning angler is so far higher now than it has ever been. You can take a beginning bass angler, somebody that's getting into the sport now, and they know more than like a good tournament angler did 30 years ago in terms of just their access to information and the knowledge they have on everything. So the skill set of anglers are so much higher now, and you can put a dent in the fish population with that. And I've never been a person that thinks that you have to harvest like that. It's been my experience, if you have habitat and if you have a good food base, there's no need to do that. And the reason I say that is I had a 40-acre lake of my own for 15 years. When I first got it, I had the conservation department come up there and they shocked the lake. And they came back with their recommendations like, Randy, you need to harvest 100 bass per acre out of your lake. And I looked at them and said, I didn't say it, but I was thinking, you guys are out of your mind. I'm not going to take 4,000 bass a year out of my 40-acre lake.
That's a lot.
I didn't take anything out of it. The only thing I did is I increased my habitat. I increased my bluegill population. I stocked bait fish in there, and I had the freaking hog pond of your dreams, and no fish were taken out of it. Tommy Biffle came up and fished at one time. He can even tell you. And we did not take any bass out of that pond. And so if you got habitat and food, you don't have to take it out of it. And I'm not saying that it's like completely ridiculous to keep and eat a bass. I'm not saying that, but when you've got more and more and more pressure on the lake every year, increasing number of fishermen, an increasing number of fishermen out there that are highly skilled, that has an impact on the lake. I mean, we don't have this infinite bass population out there. And I just think that and this whole forward-facing sonar topic, I think the conservation departments are a little bit naive to what's going on there. And I've told them that before. That's just my opinion. I mean, some people probably say, you don't know what you're talking about, Randy. Just shut up, Grandpa. I mean,
I I think it's not a simple issue like most other things, like Jim Dill, or it might be Denise. He said he's on the water 180 days a year. There's no shortage of bass from what I'm seeing. And me personally, I'm still seeing a lot of bass in all our lakes. I'm seeing them.
I see a lot of 14 and under bass.
They're smarter, and then in some lakes, the bigger fish are disappearing. I don't think it's because people are eating them, though. I think it's just because of the tournament pressure is like there's a delayed mortality thing. And I'm not saying that people aren't eating bass. There's several people on here that talk about eating bass too. But I'm still seeing a lot of bass. I just think they're really smart for the reasons you just said, Randy. The people that are fishing now, you take somebody that's in high school, and they're fishing high school tournaments. And by the time they get out of high school and maybe they fish a couple years in college, not only do they have access to your channel, to my channel, to whoever's putting that stuff out there on YouTube, anything on social media, shorts, any baits that are out in articles, they can watch live tournament bass fishing. They can watch Bassmasters, BPT, whatever. They're seeing the best of the best out there on the water, catching fish with certain techniques. They learn it that day. They can go buy it on Tackle Warehouse or Baitworks or wherever they want to, take it out, and within like 2 days, they've caught a few fish and they got some confidence on it. And back in the day, you had to wait for Bassmaster magazine to come out to do like a review of the latest tournament. A lot of guys were really tight-lipped about stuff. You know, the guys back in your time, Randy, they didn't share information like these younger kids do. They were a little bit tighter-lipped. There's still a few secrets out there, but you see it a whole lot more because content creators are putting that out. So these younger guys that go through high school and they come out of college, they've already had 6-7 years of legitimate tournament fishing, you know, on the water experience on different lakes throughout the country. So they're way more advanced at 20 than they were, say, you know, like 30 years ago, a 30-year-old angler was. You know, there's the learning curve's like it's crazy. And I think kind of one other thing, I know we're getting close to the end of this, but one other thing I wanted to touch on is, you know, you dropped a video recently talking about Hackney on Mercer, and he was talking about the forward-facing sonar and some of these seasoned veterans having to adjust to the younger crowd that's coming up as they're getting closer to the end of their career. The competition's never been tougher. What are your thoughts? If you were, so there's definitely a forward-facing sonar aspect of that, of the success of these younger guys, but also would you agree that it's just the youth always overtakes, you know, the older folks in any sport? It doesn't matter what it is. It's just kind of a natural progression. I mean, even me, it's hard for me to swallow, but I fished these Wednesday nighters a bunch. And the last time I fished a Wednesday nighter, there was a bunch of like 19, 20, 21-year-olds that showed up, and I never recognized them, and they did really well, you know. And I just, where did these guys come from? They knew how to fish, they competed, and they cashed checks. So that's something that I think that's a natural progression. The youth come up, each generation is a little more educated than the last generation. And there's kind of a battle of, you know, the guys that are seasoned and been doing it forever. I mean, you got these younger guys that have all this experience. They don't have wives. They don't have kids. They may not have jobs. They're able to get out on the water like 5, 6, 7 days a week. So they're learning fivefold, to where somebody that's been, let's just say Swindle has so many obligations. You know, he's got a family, he's got boat shows, he's got sponsor obligations. Plus he's got bad knees and he just can't fish as hard as he used to. You know, his back's kind of jacked up. We get older, man. That's just part of it. What are your thoughts on, you know, the seasoned anglers competing with the youth and that kind of that little bit of argument that's been going on the last couple of years?
That we could talk for another 2 hours about this, but I'll give you my thoughts on that. What you're talking about has always been a thing, except it's been accelerated 1,000 times over the past couple of years with forward facing. I mean, there's always occasional young people that come up, like Van Dam at 22. He was sort of a freak of nature. And then you had a couple other younger ones out there like Jay Ellis, Todd Faircloth. But it was rare because you had to gain the experience of seasonal movements and knowledge of fish behavior that took a long time to do it. So this progression has been accelerated artificially. But here's the question, and this points to the bigger problem and the bigger picture I talk about. You made a comment that these kids are fishing 5 and 7 days a week. Okay, if you're an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid, how do you afford to fish 5 or 6, 7 days a week? And how do you have a new truck and a boat, or even a marginally new truck and boat at that age? Because when I was that age, I was working, doing school, working 35 hours a week. Where I could barely even go to the lake. So, I'm not taking on the younger anglers because I love them. I got a lot of them I talk to. I got a lot of them friends. I'm saying the reality of this situation, and I've talked to a lot of people in the industry about this. We are creating this income disparity amongst young anglers, where the people that are more financially affluent and they have the resources and they have family money are accelerating to the top of the sport quickly, or a lot quicker than somebody that just has an average income. I'd use this one example. This one time, I got this kid from North Carolina. He's probably 19 now, but he's messaged me for the last couple of years. His dad passed away. He lives with his mom. He's ate up with bass fishing. I mean, the guy, he dreams about being a pro, but he can't afford it. He can't afford a boat. He can't afford anything. And so you got this kid that's got this dream, but he simply financially cannot afford it. And then you got the next kid in the same situation. I'm not picking on him. That's just the reality of the situation. They've got parents that, are well-to-do, own family businesses, and it allows them to fish 5 to 7 days a week. We have got to, in order for this sport to be sustainable, in order for it to provide opportunities for everybody and not just a few, we have got to eliminate this financial disparity that's coming up amongst the young anglers. And the only way that you do that is through equipment limitations from the tournament organizations. And that's why I was so against this whole high school, change they made with the BFLs about removing restrictions. That just further increases that income disparity. So that is to answer your question. That is how this is happening, is because you have a lot of anglers out there that are passionate. They've got the financial resources to do it, and we've never seen that before. The whole sport before was like myself, where I had to get 2 or 3 of my buddies to buy a Roach Motel for $25 a night, and we all slept on the floor, and we could only run 20 miles up the lake because we didn't have enough money to get up there. That's the way I was brought up in the sport, and that guys like myself do not exist anymore. If I was, when I started out the sport when I was 23, if you put me at years old now, 26, with my situation financially then, I would never have been able to be a bass pro. I was back then because there wasn't the financial disparity and that elitism that exists now. That's the problem that a lot of people are not talking about.
Yeah, I remember. I also think that in a majority, and I'm totally speculating here, but I think there might be more wealth, more disposable income in general amongst Americans than there was 30 years ago. I'm just throwing this out there. But I know when I was, 30 years ago, when I bought my first John boat, I had to save up money. I really did have to save up money. And it was an older 9.9. I had an older trolling motor and stuff, but I was still able to save some money. I worked at Chick-fil-A and I delivered pizzas for polarized pizza. That was my deal. I didn't spend money on frivolous stuff. I didn't do there's a million different ways to spend money, but I wanted a John boat because I was really passionate about fishing, and I worked and I saved up money. I wasn't getting paid minimum wage like it was now. I think I was getting paid it wasn't much, but anyway, it took a while. But I saved up and I got a John boat, and it was riveted and it leaked a little bit and it smoked, but I ran out of trolling motor juice halfway through the day, but I got out there and, I kept, every year I would kind of upgrade something, you know, but I was out there to fish. And I think if you really want something and you're really focused on it, you can go out there and work. I still think that is an American way of getting stuff. Yeah, you may not get a 21-foot bass boat with a 250 on it, but you could get a 16-foot John boat with a 10 horse or a 9.9 and get out there and learn to fish. You don't have to have scope to go catch fish. There's no doubt about it. There's like you spoke about, there's a lot of fundamentals that some people have learned with forward-facing sonar, but some people have learned without it. And I think that you can just get a John boat and get out there and get after it for a minimal amount of money. And you shouldn't feel like you're going to be left behind, because there's core basic stuff that you have to learn. There's accelerated ways to learn it, but regardless of how you learn it, you still have to learn it. And just because you can't afford the greatest and the latest, you can still go out there and learn like seasonal patterns and bait selection and when to throw this and when to throw that. And if you want to, if you work a little bit, you save up, you can get out there. Now, you got to make that. It's going to be a while before you can fish, you know, a BFL or something starting that, but you're on the right path. You got to start somewhere. And I think, you know, we shouldn't just pigeonhole ourselves to and make excuses that only rich kids can get out there and fish. I think we can all get out there and mow some grass and do whatever, flip some burgers, save up some money, start at a really low end starter boat, and just work your way up.
Yeah, you can definitely do that, but it's like I said, it's impossible to compete amongst the anglers that already have that advantage. That's sort of the situation we've created now. That's why, you know, you see the average age of the classic qualifiers has dropped like 20 years over the past 5 years or something. That's a incredible statistic.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. So, all right. Well, it's 9 o'clock. You know, you said, I told you we'd only keep you on here for an hour. I know you're busy, man. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your thoughts. I think we had a pretty, you know, it was a pretty civil discussion. We talked about some hot topics, but we kind of kept it real. I think kind of covered some of the angles. There's a lot going on out there in tournament fishing. I mean, there, just like everything else in this country, there's no simple, easy answers. It's a complex scenario. There's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, some more than others, and there's no easy answer. But I think the key is to get on here in these live streams and have discussions. You know, I think part of the biggest problems with the world today is people don't communicate. People don't talk. People aren't able to, like, it's tribal. People side up and this guy's an idiot. This guy's an idiot. But if we all just talk about things, at least we'll understand where the other person's coming from, and hopefully we can come up with some reasonable solutions. So
we got a bunch of these out there.
Yeah, very true.
Bunch of keyboard warriors. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Randy. Warriors.
Yeah, thanks for appreciate you guys having me. Good talk, man.
All right, I hope you get your internet fixed, buddy.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll check in later.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, that was cool. Good stream tonight. A lot of great questions. Randy had limited time. You know, he was only going to be on here for an hour, so we tried to kind of keep the conversation moving along. And
it goes so fast, though. Like,
it goes so fast, and that was a good discussion. I was really into it. I thought, you know, we covered a lot of the good points. And you know, everybody knows how Randy feels, but I also feel like he was willing to, you know, kind of look at it from all different perspectives, and you know. It is what it is. I think it was a fruitful discussion, to say the least. A lot of good.
Yeah, we hit a ton of different, like.
There's no easy answer to any of this.
Well,
you know?
and we brought up just a bunch of obstacles tonight of fishing, and we ended with like the cost of technology, and you know, shit, it's the cost of getting to the lake and having something that floats in the lake. Whether you're buying a John boat or whether you're buying a brand new Phoenix, it does not matter. They're both expensive.
Right.
And to outfit one of those, you can start here or you can go here. Sky's the limit of what you want to do. And the fortunate part is, unfortunate, I see some folks in here, you know, how do you afford car payment, health insurance, gas, groceries, all the things, like everything's going up. It's expensive, but I mean, you live in a world that is loan driven, is note driven.
Well, think about
Borrowing
your
money,
first car.
debt.
Think about
What's
your
that?
first car. You didn't have a brand new like Toyota Tundra or crew cab, you know, with
I had a 1989
Yeah.
Chevy S10 shit brown long bed
Right.
single cab.
and you worked your way up. You know, each couple years you got something a little bit nicer. I mean, I wasn't really. I'm not saying we didn't have a ton of money. My first car was a $200 Buick Skylark with a
Hold on.
hood,
I'm
had a
gonna vouch
transmission.
for you, bud. The last truck you had was that old green Dodge, was it not?
It was 20 years old. Yeah,
And it was that.
it had
Oh my
280
gosh.
something thousand miles on it. I drove the piss out of it. That's just
Yeah.
how I roll, man. Yeah.
But you and I live a similar life. Like, we're not going to buy a truck because it's the new one on the lot, right?
Right.
Would I love to have the new truck on the lot? Would I love to have the new 2500 AT4 Denali,
Sure.
blah, blah? Sure.
I don't want that
But
payment.
the one that's sitting in the driveway up there is paid for.
It works. It works.
And-
But we both
and-
started out with small John boats. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You know,
And I upgraded to a bass boat, a Ranger,
Mhm.
and sold it because it wasn't cost prohibitive for me. I wasn't going to go pro. I wasn't going to go fish BFLs or try to qualify in the opens. I just want to fish local. Like, maybe one day, but not today. Like, my kids are still young, and there's more about me spending time with them than it is on the water nowadays. But yeah, I see a lot of them, like new 19-foot boat, $60,000. It's a bad investment, but there's a lot of 19-foot bass boats with $60,000 loans on them for the next 25 years. Like, and $60,000 seems cheap right now for a boat. You can easily step into a brand new 21-foot Phoenix loaded out for 120.
Yeah. So no, you're right, man. Things are just expensive, and I wish we had more time with Randy, because there's a couple other rabbit holes I would like to went down. For sure, talking about just how much better the competition is. I'm going to do a video. I was trying to articulate. Some of this stuff's hard to articulate. Like, I need to write it all down. Like, starting from, you know, I guess you would start with a flasher and you go to like side scan and all the way up to the current situation. And then talking about the progression of information that's available to people that fish on social media. And then talking about the seasoned veterans, you know, a lot of the people that are they've spoken out about forward-facing sonar recently, you know, notably Swindle, Hackney, Cobb, there's Van Dam, you know, there's several of them that have talked about how they don't like it. But then it's a very interesting conversation. So are they bitter because these younger guys are taking their lunch money now? And are they blaming, it's easy to blame that on forward-facing sonar, but you're overlooking a lot of different variables. One, those guys they're towards the end of their career. They don't have, you know, if you've been working a job for 20, 25 years, you don't have the same kind of oomph as when you started the job and were only working it for 5 or 10 years. Fishing is a passion. They're doing something that they really love. But as you get towards the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years of your career, you just don't have the freaking get up and get after it like you used to. I don't care who you are. You still may have the passion for it. Your body's wore out. You're not able to go as hard. You've got a lot of obligations. You got family, you got kids, you got cousins, you got birthday parties, basketball games, baseball games. You've got all these different just boat shows, sponsor obligations. When you start out and you're young, not only do you have access to all this new information, you're around a lot of, you talked about in high school when we were growing up. It wasn't cool to be a fisherman. Now it is. You're not like the freak in the class. There's 40 other people that go fishing with you all the time. So you're out there learning with all this technology, with all this social media, all this YouTube stuff, all the live bass fishing, all these people around you that are bouncing stuff off. They're not tight-lipped. They're all sharing. It's an event. And those guys are able to get out in the water 5-6 days a week. So you've got the pros that have been established. They're slowly getting pushed by the younger crew that's coming up. But I think what's not, I mean, you don't hear it talked about as much. People want to blame it on forward-facing sonar. These guys are putting in the time, the effort, and they're learning all the same stuff that the old school dudes did. They know all the same stuff. You know, you hear, well, forward-facing sonar, you don't know seasonal patterns. You don't. Yeah, you do, because you're catching the biggest fish in the lake. You got to know where to look. Everybody's got that technology. Why are these certain select few people, just because they're young, why are they catching 30-pound bags when everybody else is only catching 20? It's because they're busting their ass and they're putting the time in on the water. Now that's a big, long video. It's hard to articulate it. And there's a lot of stuff in between that I missed out. But, you know, book in that's a legitimate topic.
So you're talking about all of these guys, and let's call them not the demographic. I don't put them in a demographic, but
I got like 5 years.
Lucky. But we're talking about guys that are probably anywhere from my age and older, 40 and up, you would say, right? That they're pushing the end of their careers. How many of those guys sold what you're talking about, that secret, that tip, that seasonal pattern, that the way fish move, for a click on YouTube? Because that was the thing to do 5 years ago. That was the hot, and you're in it. You're involved in it too. I'm going to put this video out on this technique that took me 20 years to perfect.
Per click, you're giving it away.
For 1,000 clicks or 1,000 views on Facebook or on YouTube. That's why all these kids are so good, because how many of those professionals did that 5 years ago when those kids were 10, 11, 12 years old and they're watching YouTube. They know all of that stuff because it's at your fingertips. It's right here all day long. I can sit there and watch YouTube. Yeah. It could run in the background. It's subliminal messaging. I don't care how you absorb it, but everything's live. Every tournament is live. Every hour of every tournament is live. You can watch how he is shaking his minnow or how he's dragging his jig. Like, it does not matter. The information is out there. It's not one. We cannot point our finger at one particular thing, whether it's kids into fishing, whether it's tournament pressure, whether it's forward-facing sonar. Fishing's getting tougher. No different than baseball's getting tougher. They weren't throwing 109 30 years ago.
Right.
They weren't scoring 140 in an NBA game 20 years ago. Sports get harder as things progress. People get built for it. Back in the day, did Tommy Biffle and my goodness, Jimmy Houston have a diet regimen before they went to the lake? No, they had gas station and smoked packs of Marlboros every day, right?
No, they didn't look like Zach Burge.
No, some of these guys are jacked. They have a meal plan to get through the day. Get through
Polinick, Carl Jacobson, Justin Lucas, they're athletes.
So I made a comment earlier on this. He was talking about all the young guys. Randy was talking about all the young guys that are dominating our sport now. Aaron Martins, Jacob Wheeler, Brandon Polinick, Carl Jacobson. Do we need to go on and on, like all the young guys that dominated coming into the sport?
Right.
Like, those guys dominated without forward-facing sonar. Oh, by the way, Trey McKinney kind of dominated Southern Illinois before forward-facing sonar was even a thing. Like, there's a lot of these guys out here that are good now, that are great now, that are professionals, but they were good before all of this came out.
Yeah,
now some of them got into fishing because of it.
Johnny Schultz, I mean, fish the moment. You know, he doesn't fish tournaments anymore, but he dominated there for a while when he was fishing tournaments.
Look at the Guggen squad. Like, that got people in Milliken. Those guys got people into fishing that never would have fished before.
Right.
Because they made it look cool on YouTube.
Yeah, it's so here's another little side hole of that conversation. The youth are starting so much earlier, and you know this as good as anybody, being a baseball coach. You know, there's a lot of kids that they're swinging the bat at like 3-4 years old, you know, and then they're on traveling teams. It's hard. Like if you were just to come off the couch and try to jump in baseball at like 16 years old, never really played, good luck. You can't do it. 20 years ago, if you were just kind of strong and you had a little bit of agility and ability, you could probably, you know, with a little bit of coaching, you could walk off the bench at 14, 15 and play. Now you can't. These kids are starting at like 5 and 6. That's the same thing with fishing. You look at skateboarding, look at the stuff that they're doing in skateboarding. You guys out there on YouTube land, pull up some skateboard videos. I used to skateboard. We had no idea you could do the stuff that they can do now. You look at breakdancing. Breakdancing is freaking insane, the stuff that they're doing. We weren't doing that back in the day. Everything has just evolved. Everybody's starting younger. They're more focused. They put in more time on whatever it is that they're doing. And it's just it's a natural evolution of the human race. Some things we're getting worse at, you know, there's no argument with that. We've definitely downgraded on some
being
stuff.
humans.
A lot of it is common sense, like being able to think for yourself. I think there's a lack of people out there that are not able to think for themselves. They want to be tribal. They want to listen to somebody that says something, latch onto it, and only listen to other people that are saying the same thing. They're not thinking for themselves. So that's a negative thing. But as far as sports and the arts, guitar playing, music, whatever, it's just gotten better and better because we've got access to more knowledge at a younger age, and it's a natural progression.
So you play an instrument, right? You
Yes.
play bass guitar.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
How did you learn? Somebody taught you, right?
No, I just picked it up and learned. I just poked around, just hours and hours and hours of playing and playing. Now, I did learn from people as I started playing with people, but it was just picking it up and like, oh, you push this down and makes that noise, and this makes this noise, and these two sound together, and then you get a book and you learn some scales. But it was mostly, I'd say I'm mostly self-taught.
Okay.
The influence of other people as I got older.
So how long did that take you to be Yeah.
Oh gosh, a couple years, you know, to be okay at it, you know, and not totally suck. But
I'm not saying that I could, but if I took up bass, I think in 30 days with YouTube that I could.
In 6 months, if you focused on it and you practiced for several hours a day, you could be a really good bass player in 6 months.
Yeah.
With YouTube, sure.
Just because of the access that we have here.
Yeah. And maybe sooner too, depending on how dedicated you were to it.
No different than fishing. Like a kid that has never fished before has here.
There you go.
Here's this other thing that I can order whatever I want right here, right now, from 10 different websites of fishing related goods.
Yeah.
Before it was like, okay, here's a master catalog for Bass Pro. And maybe once a year we made a trip to Bass Pro if you didn't have one in your backyard and you got to buy a new fishing rod. Or you ordered one offline and you hoped to God it didn't come, or called in. You remember doing that, calling in to Bass Pro and ordering a fishing rod. Like, and hoping it didn't come in broke because of the USPS didn't bring it to you. It was
all you had was what was in print. There was no like cross-referencing. There was no customer like, this is a 4.5 out of 5 rod. This rod sucks. You know, you didn't have all these customer reviews. You had a little like 400 words or less. That's all you knew, and you just kind of went for it.
And it's not like the manufacturer for a Shimano reel was like, this reel really kind of grinds when you reel it in. It doesn't cast very far. No, it was the best of the best for $39.99. Like,
right.
But $39.99 didn't get you a lot in 2000. It doesn't get you a lot today.
Yeah, you're right, Swim. It's just gotten so competitive because for the reasons we just stated. People starting earlier, they got access to everything. Somebody asked what bass do I have? I've got it's like an early 90s Japanese jazz bass. I bought it from the guy that I played, the drummer in my old band. His dad has all kinds of guitars and stuff, and he actually knew somebody at Lakeland that was able to make some custom pickups for that bass. And the first time I played it, it was at my drummer buddy's house, and his dad had left it over there, and I picked it up, and I'm like, holy cow! I just fell in love with it. I was able to play with it for a couple months over there, and finally I asked him if he would sell it, and he sold it to me. So that's my main bass. I also have it's a Music Man. It's a Sterling. That's probably 20. It's like right when the Sterlings came out. So it's pretty old. It's got a rosewood neck on it. It is I'm trying to think of the color. I don't know. I'm halfway colorblind, but it's kind of like a lavender color where my fender is just kind of that starburst wood grain.
Pretty.
It is, but they're both two completely different bases. The Music Man's got a lot faster neck. It's a little bit thinner neck, where the Fender's a lot more woody. It's actually, you can get a lot of different tones out of it, but love them both. All 4 strings. I've had 5 string. They're fine too. I've even played a 6 string, but I like that 4 string, man. It's just nice and comfortable. It's fast. It's got all the notes on there. I mean, you don't get that really low string on the 5 string, but I love it. So that's what I got. I just got 2 basses. I'm not like somebody that has like 30 basses and stuff. I've got a couple guitars, and I got a couple basses, and I got a couple guns.
Do you play guitar too?
Now fishing rods, that's a completely different story. I play guitar a little bit. I mean, I got an acoustic that I'll play around on. Just I kind of suck at it. The good thing about bass is if you got fat fingers, you're okay on a bass. When I go to play guitar, the strings are so close together that I really have to focus because I'll get a little fret buzz and a little bit of string noise because my fingers touch. Bass is just, I don't know, it's just what I like. So
you step into bass, man.
Step into bass, man. Yeah. I like the Ernie balls. They're nice playing basses. I mean, that Fender is sweet too. I've played a lot of bass. I had a Yamaha. Like my first bass I had was a Yamaha. It was pretty decent. No, I don't sing, dude. I sing in the shower and I sing backup, like way.
I've heard him sing in the back of the boat before.
Way back up.
Don't let him lie to you.
Yeah,
he's
I'm
got
getting
a voice
better.
of
I
an angel.
Yeah,
that's all the stuff he cuts out of his YouTube videos, guys.
Let's give away. We're gonna give away a $25 Baitworks gift card, and let me share this. Good stream tonight, man. Had a lot of good questions, a lot of good feedback. Everybody was pretty cordial.
I was going just to comment on that. I appreciate the.
There's a few funny comments in there.
Chat being very, very PG tonight.
Very civil. Yeah.
I saw some stuff that I
chuckled at.
I really wanted to go after, but I didn't.
Yeah. All right. If you want to get involved, if you want to sign up for the $25 Baitworks gift card giveaway, hashtag all caps BASS. So just type that in the comment section. A lot of new faces on here. We'll let that run for just a little bit, and then we'll draw, and somebody will get a $25 Baitworks gift card. Also, scrolling across the ticker there on the bottom. If you go to Baitworks, you can use the code THM10, and that gets you 10% off of your order. So basically, it pays for your sales tax and that kind of stuff. Might get a little bit off. Probably have some sales coming up. Labor Day. You always got to. This is a great time to buy some stuff. I'm in the market for some new waders, man, because waders are one of those deals where I don't realize they leak until I'm standing in the middle of the river, because I only trout fish I don't trout fish as much as I used to. But yeah, I need some new waders because the last time I went fishing, I got pretty wet all the way up and down my right leg.
I went Amazon last time I bought waders, and it was I think I bought them for like $85, and they're just as good as the $200 waders that I've bought before.
Send me the link, man. Send me the link.
I will.
I'm getting ready to drop like 300 on some Orvis, but I'm holding off.
Man, I was Orvis Sims kind of, in my opinion, I mean, they're still a great company, I'm sure, but when they went big corporate bought them out, their quality kind of went downhill.
Thanks.
But I almost pulled the trigger on a pair of Orvis, but I could not justify spending $300, $400 on a pair of waders that I'm going to wear twice a year.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only reason I'm looking at Orvis, I was at Bass Pro Shops last week, and I tried on a couple of theirs. They were okay, but the Orvis that I've got, I've had them for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
The first time I went to Colorado, I fished the Gunnison. We were in, the Gunnison River, and there was an Orvis dealer, and I bought those waders then, and I've had them ever since. Now they've been leaking for about 5 years, but it's gotten worse. But they've been pretty good, for me to have them that long.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like if I was fishing, if I did that style of fishing daily, really? I would probably, I'd probably buy a pair of Orvis Sims, some high quality breathable wader. But like I said, the ones that I got, I mean, yeah, they're probably. I had a guide on the Little Red River down in Arkansas tell me it doesn't matter what style of waders that you're going to buy, they're all going to leak. And they don't ever leak within the inside of the warranty period. So buy the cheapest pair you're going to get and save your money that way.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So, I mean, I think he was buying $100 like White River Bass Pro brand waders, and he was a guide on the river. So he just had a couple pairs of them. If one of them leaked or you fell in that day, you let them dry out for a day. So,
yeah. John Boy says breakdancing would be actually breaking something. It's the same with skateboarding, man. I don't even get on a skateboard anymore. Like I'm scared I'll break my ankle. At bare minimum, I'm gonna like put some sort of bruise on my shin or my kneecap for sure.
Well, you talk about that. Like I remember. I skateboarded for like that much of my life, and it was everything that we were trying to do is trying to figure out how to do a kickflip.
Yeah.
And now like it's a YouTube video and probably could figure it out in 2 minutes, but we were trying to figure it out like just by doing it, watching a skateboarding video somewhere and trying to figure out what they did.
Okay, so that's one other thing that I wanted to add to that whole conversation we just had, piggybacking. You nailed it. It's sometimes we don't know that it's possible to do something until we experience someone else doing it. So a lot of there's a certain demographic that is very creative, their thought process. And those are the ones that usually invent things. They're the guys that tweak baits and they come up with new ways to fish stuff. But I would say majority of the people just fish or just dance or just skateboard a certain way. And they're not able to invent new tricks or new moves or new ways to fish a certain bait. So a lot of the learning that we've done, that we've experienced, is from watching someone do something a way that we never even thought about. They're like, this is simple, but I didn't know you could take a couple strands of a spinnerbait skirt and stick it through the middle of a Cinco. Somebody was just sitting around late one night in the wintertime tinkering around. They're like, hey, let's shove some skirt material through a soft plastic crawl, shake it around. Maybe they caught some fish on it. And then all of a sudden they got a video out, and then all these people saw, hey, you can actually take skirt material and put it through, a Cinco and catch fish on it. Like that times 100. There's a certain, like a jig head minnow. Somebody's like, this is how you rig a jig head minnow, right? Well, somebody figured out that if you put the actual ball head on the top of the minnow, it makes it roll. And then all of a sudden there's only 5 people that are doing that, but it comes out in a video, and then there's 20,000 people that had never thought about it. They didn't realize that you could do it until they saw somebody else doing it. That's another aspect of the world that we live in. There's, you can call them copycats or people that are just paying attention, but there's certain people that come up with that stuff by themselves. They're innovators, they're creative, but majority of us, we don't learn that until we see somebody else doing it, and then we're able to go out and apply it and benefit from it. If that makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah. No, I haven't heard anything, Frank. I do know that they're going to try to drop the BFL schedule right at the beginning of September. They're really hashing out. When we had Boyd on last week, he was thinking in a couple weeks, and I think they're trying to get that out there at the first part of September. So as soon as they get the BFL schedule, the Toyota schedule is right behind it. And that Toyota, there's a lot of people that are wanting to see if they're going to cut the co-anglers out of the Toyota series, because I think there's a lot of BFL co-anglers that are going to move to the Toyota series if it's still available. But I don't know, man. I really don't know. Everybody's wondering, but I do know that they're working on it and they're trying to hash it all out. Yeah, guys started Wacky Rig. Hey, let's put instead of putting the hook in the nose, it's probably, Ryan, it was probably somebody's like 5-year-old kid that they just threw him a worm and a hook, and they said, yeah, we're fishing plastic worms. Next thing you know, the dad looks over and his daughter's got like a hook through the middle of the worm, and the guy's like, no, you don't put the hook there, you put it on the nose. And then she throws it out and catches like a 5-pounder, and then the dad's like, well, maybe you do put it through the middle of the worm, and now you fish. Now you got the Wacky Rig.
Yeah, how many innovations like that happen by mistake? Your kid doesn't know that you're supposed to rig it this way, and they rig it backwards or upside down, or
yeah, a lot. Yeah, Justin, I think that's pretty smart. And we talked about that with Boyd. That was one of my things that I think that's going to be real important for Major League Fishing to do as much as they can to not conflict with the other big team tournament trails out there. I mean, it's going to be impossible because they got 20 different divisions. They've got Toyota Series, they got Pro Circuit, all that. But I think I wouldn't be so worried about the Pro Circuit and the Toyotas as much as I would the BFL with the new team format, scheduling it on top of the OMTT, Anglers in Action. There's a bunch of them, but a lot of those guys are loyal. There's a good draw. There's a big carrot with the new BFL team format. But man, it's a saturated market. So they're going to have to be a little bit crafty on how they schedule their tournaments, in my opinion. Yeah, swimming and drop shot. Exactly.
There's no way any of that works, man. Not me.
My daughter proved me wrong on that. Dude, throw a red chatterbait.
It doesn't work.
Throw a red chatterbait. I've done a video 2 years in a row on that, because it's like people don't throw red baits when the water's above 60 degrees. Most people don't. I think it's like a late winter, early spring deal, and then back in the fall, but they'll still bite it in the summertime for sure. Okay, let's draw that. Let's give this away. We've been rambling forever. Let's see what happens.
Maybe you should play the bass. Like hit a couple chords while this is running.
Yes. Chad Beasley. Congratulations, Chad. Get a hold of me on Facebook at Gabe Montgomery or on Instagram, 10 Horse Monty 6, and I will get you taken care of, man. Congratulations. Get back out of this. Cool. All right. Any last minute questions out there? Here's a Tom, dude. Tom's like He's like,
He's
one of
on
the
it.
guys. Not only is he a bass player, not only does he eat whatever ding dongs and zingers and stuff in the boat and Vienna sausages, but he also knows some bass fishing history. Two guys who didn't know how to rig a plastic worm and were rigging it in the middle of the curly tail Texas story. So kind of what we thought. The rest is history. We got at least two bass players. I'm sure we got more.
That's too many, man.
Yeah. You know who's a killer ass bass player? Is Hawgz Custom.
Oh, really?
Baits. Dude, he sent me some Eric DeRose. He sent me some audio clips that he recorded on his phone. Sound like Victor Wooten.
I don't know who the hell that is.
Well, he's a phenomenal, like, legendary bass player, like slapping, popping, double strumming with his thumb and stuff. I was like, "That's you?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Wow." I was impressed. So he's got some really mad bass skills. What's up, Brock? Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Okay. One more thing for us to chew on before we go. Do you think, when we had Boyd on, I asked him what would he consider a successful season with the new team format? And he said 150 boats a division would be, obviously they want to get as many as possible, but kind of 150 was that benchmark. If they got 150 boats in multiple divisions, he would consider that a success. So what if that doesn't happen next year? Do you think there's room for them to come back and implement the boater co-angler format in 2028? Or do you think that it's too late? Do you think that that's like completely in the past? Because one thing I've noticed is every time Major League Fishing makes a change, or every time Bassmaster makes a change, there's a big buzz. It draws a lot of attention to that organization. Social media is flooded with posts. YouTube's flooded with videos talking about it. So they get some kickback. They get some buzz from it. It draws some attention to that organization that might have been stagnant. So is there some sort of strategy that if the team format doesn't work, they can just come back with the old boater co-angler? Or have they burnt too many bridges? Do you think that that has sailed?
I think that anything that has been changed can be reverted back. I personally it could be. There's probably some bridges that are burnt, but there's so many new anglers into the market. Like, everybody's looking to fish a tournament. Everybody's looking to compete somewhere to get that fix of the drug. Like, there's too many new anglers coming into the market that may or may not even know what a BFL All-American really is. I mean, you got to think about, there's going to be somebody that has never fished an MLF event in 27 that will believe that the BFL All-American is what it is in 27. Just like there's a whole host of folks that are fishing BFLs right now that don't have a damn clue what a red man is.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right.
So
you're right. A couple comments I want to address here real quick. If you tell cows they can't cast out of the front half of the boat and then you scope all day, that type of tournament is fishing. Yeah, that is finished. Yeah. Man, I was going to bring this up with Randy, but it was just, everything was moving pretty good. He was talking about how many co-anglers had come up to him, and they were so glad that they were fishing with him because they knew that he wasn't going to be fishing with forward-facing sonar. I fished, I don't know how many tournaments I fished as a co. Probably like 70 something. There's only been 4 times, 2 for sure. One was with Jake Lawrence, one was with Levi Cole, where forward-facing sonar was really, really hard. It was really, really hard to fish behind those guys. I wasn't like hung out in like 80 foot of water, but it was because, especially with Jake, because Jake hit like 60 spots that day. He was literally like pull up, make a few casts, move to the next brush pile, or moving really fast through an area. So there's only a couple times out of all those tournaments where I felt like I was at a disadvantage because somebody had forward-facing sonar. There's a couple other times. One with my buddy he wasn't at the time, but he's become a buddy of mine, is Ben McCord on Table Rock, where we were way out off the bank, and this was a wintertime deal, and he was throwing an A-rig and a jerkbait, and he was forward-facing, he was scoping, fishing for suspended fish in cold water. It's like a March tournament or whatever. That was another scenario where I could have been at a disadvantage, but I asked questions. We talked about communication. I asked him, how deep are the bait fish that you're seeing? Are they 15 feet? Are they 30 feet? How deep are they? And then are you seeing bass? What are the bass doing? Are they relating to the standing timber? Or are they just out in open water? I asked him questions. And most guys, if you create a narrative or create a dialogue or whatever, you start talking to them, not being a dick, just talking to them, just like human to human, they will kind of let you know some general basic stuff. Like, do you need to be throwing a jerkbait that dives 4 feet, or do you need to be throwing like a +2 that gets down there like 15? Do you need to let your A-rig sink down to 15 feet because that's where most of the bait and most of the fish are, or do you need to let it sink down to 30? I asked all those questions, so I could have just pouted and been like, I want to freaking throw at the bank. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere. There ain't a chance in hell I'm going to be able to catch a fish. But whether I caught fish or not, I at least asked questions, and I knew he kind of filled me in on what he was seeing with that front looker. So I think some of the people that have had bad experiences as a co-angler, not all of them, but some of them, it's because they've already made up their mind that forward-facing sonar is going to ruin their day out of the back of the boat. Or if they would have kept a positive mindset, kind of changed the way they're thinking about their day, how it was going to go, and opened up a form of communication with their boater, they would have had a much better day. Now, there's some scenarios, like I mentioned, like the first two, that was like, those guys are just hardcore. They're going 100 miles an hour. That was tough, right? You are going to get into those scenarios, but out of 70, 75 tournaments as a co, there's only been a handful. And most of those, the guy that I was fishing with had forward-facing sonar, but he was just using it to locate brush and this and that. It was kind of just like it had always been, but the guy had forward-facing sonar. So a lot of this stuff that people are whining about as co-anglers, I'm kind of going out on a limb here, but a lot of it has to do with that actual person and their lack of communication skills, or already having their mind made up on how their day was going to go. And I think if you're just a little bit more open, have some more communication, readjust your mind, you could have a better day. And
well, it's
talk to your boater. Can I cast one more thing? Like, if you're moving down a bank, you got to cast. You don't have to cast over his shoulder, but you don't want to cast halfway. Every boater I've ever fished with, you kind of get a flow. You kind of see where he's casting, and you cast just 7-8 feet behind him, but you're still throwing up because you're moving at a pace. Most boaters are cool with that. You just got to ask them, hey, are you good with this cast?
Tim just made a comment. Have you ever fished with a guy that paralleled the bank?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dude, it's rough.
That was my first BFL. So I just turned around and fished the other way.
Yeah, Tim.
So I also knew that there's going to be a chance that I'm going to get hung up, and I'm not getting that jerkbait back. So I was super cautious. Yeah, that is tough.
That's probably the worst scenario. Table Rock can be like that too. Like I said, you're going to get that. If you fish 70 BFLs, you're going to get that a couple times. But just because a guy has forward-facing sonar doesn't mean you're going to get that every time. It's not every time.
Yeah.
And that day that I was fishing with Ben at Table Rock, and we were out there like in 90 foot of water, way out off the bank. I actually caught a couple fish on a jerkbait, couple keepers on a jerkbait, just throwing out in the middle of freaking nowhere. But I knew that the fish were down at about 15. So I was jerking my bait down and letting, I had it weighted to where it was sinking really slow. And I was just waiting. I was just counting it down. That's where you can do your homework. Know what the fall rate is of whatever bait it is. Know that jerk bait, if you let it sink for 10 seconds, it's down to 15 feet. And if your boater says, hey, yeah, the bass are suspended at 22 feet or whatever, well, I throw it out there and I count to what I think my jerk bait is, like 15 feet, because I did my homework, jerk. And you keep fan casting and doing that. If he's around that area, he's seeing fish on scope. That's one thing with scope, is if you got a good scoper, you're going to probably be around fish. But if you've done your homework and you know your equipment and know your baits, and you keep fan casting and you're putting that bait over the top of fish, you're going to catch a fish or two. But it's a mindset, man. Definitely a mindset. Yeah, I get a new tattoo, bro.
You exposed it.
Where's it at? Oh, that's right.
Turn your head on the other way, like this. Like this.
Oh, yeah.
Like this. Go out to the side. Out to the side. Out to your side. Out to your side. There you go.
Dude, it's late. Yeah. So my dog, Finley, who, if you guys have followed any of my videos, like before a year and a half ago, Finley, that's my dog. She passed away like about a year and a half ago. That's her paw print. When she passed away, it was at our house. We had an ink pad and we took her paw and put it on a piece of paper, got an actual paw print, and my whole family got Finley tattoos. Both of my daughters and my wife have this same tattoo. It's a lot smaller, but it's on their ankles. And I got this one on my forearm. It's actually blown up. She was just like a 13-pound dog, so that's a little bit bigger, but that's her actual paw print. So, which is weird. It took me a long time to get used to it, because I kept thinking that I'd like leaned up against some grease or something, like something greasy, because it's black, and I kept trying to wipe it off because it would catch me out of the corner of my eye. But now I don't even notice it. Yeah. Drag a sea rig. That's a good one, Ryan. I've caught a lot of fish behind somebody that's scoping, just dragging a sea rig. That's a good call. Somebody asked about the new live scope. They're considering, I can't remember. It was
42 HD, I think is what they said.
Yeah.
I saw that one.
What's their thoughts about that? I don't know. I've watched a lot of videos too, and it's a little bit better. I mean, if I was just buying a brand new live scope, I would probably just go ahead and get the 42. Like if I'm just getting new into live scope. But if I had,
would you go 42 or 44?
I'd go 42.
Okay.
It's better at closer range. I'm not fishing further than 80 feet,
Okay.
100 feet. 100 feet's like my maximum cast. I don't need something that goes out there 160 or whatever.
Right.
I mean, if I was like had unlimited funds and I was fishing professionally, I'd probably have them both. But the perspective mode, that's what impressed me the most about that 42 is I've watched some videos where some guys had it on perspective mode, and it's a way better than 34 on perspective.
Really?
Now, yeah, just forward mode.
I wasn't impressed with that.
So the thing that I don't like about it is the image of everything is smaller, because it's not distorted at all. It's like fine-tuned. So on the 42, your image of a fish is a little bit smaller than it is on the 34, because it's like dialed in that much better. It's that much more sharp.
So everything's small.
Everything's small. It's more realistic. So you probably it's more accurate on size representation. So you could probably, once you got it really dialed in, you could really probably tell the difference between a 5-pounder and a 3-pounder, 3.5, or whatever. But I need a little bit bigger, man. What they used to be.
What did you ever figure out if it's compatible with our units or not?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
No.
I haven't dug into it. I'm not investing in it.
No, I'm going to get a 34 when people start selling the 34. I'm hoping they do. I'm hoping there's enough pro 42, 44 videos out there that talk some people into buying. And I'm going to snatch up a 34 because a 12-inch graph, like a GPS 1222 with a 34.
It's pretty damn good.
It's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good, especially if you get that visualizer, which is a little accessory that almost all the pros have it, and nobody ever talks about it. Nobody says anything. That is part of the reason why you get that really, really clear screen and better separation. Yeah, they're only like $200.
I think time on the water, time behind the screen helps too.
Yeah,
just knowing how to adjust it. So
yeah, it ain't. It's everything's about work. No, I didn't find one yet. Anybody out there that's fishing the Wren Lake Super Tournament and they need a link on the co side, I signed up last week. There was like 13 co's on the.
Why don't you just go fish as a boater?
I don't want to because I want to try to qualify for the regional.
I got you.
To do that, I have to win. Yeah, I got to beat that guy, which is stiff competition. No, who knows? I just want to get into it one more time. I don't really have a shot of making the All-American unless I win the Wren tournament. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've seen it to where I think the 34 looks better than the 42. But here's another thing. A lot of these guys are just hooking it up and they're doing a video and they haven't fished with it much. They haven't tweaked the settings or anything. Where they're 34, they've been fishing with it for 2 years. They got it dialed in. They've watched all the videos. The 44, they just literally hooked it up and maybe have only had it on the water like once. So you're going to see some more realistic representations like right now and on into the future. That video I was talking about, this guy had it out for a while and he'd played around with it. And it was really good. He had the 34 and the 42 hooked up and did some comparisons like real time. And they're really close, honestly. It wasn't enough of an improvement to where I'm like, holy cow, until he flipped it to perspective. And now the perspective was like, there's a significant difference in the 34 and the 42 on perspective. You didn't get all the stitching. And it was really, really clear. So I can see there's an argument for buying it just based off the perspective. If the forward's the same as the 34, but the perspective is a bonus, there's an argument for getting the 42 just because of the perspective.
I'm always behind, so I'm going to wait till all the details get hashed out. So
yeah, I think Josh will be fine, even if you got a good deal on a 34. But get a 12-inch graph. I think that is so key. You don't want to,
they got bigger than what you expected.
Yeah. The one thing when you get into something new and it's a new technology and you buy something that's subpar, you're not able to appreciate the technology and you kind of struggle with it. And the learning curve is a lot more. Jonathan's got a 10-inch graph. We both have the Garmin GPS 1022s, GPS Map 1022s. Great graph. But when I got the 1222 on my new boat, it's way better. So if you can afford it when it's time to pull the trigger, that 12-inch graph is going to make a big difference. It's a lot more. It's a little bit more money, but I'm telling you, it is a lot. It really is worth it for sure. You don't have to get like a 16 unless you just win the lottery, but you want a 12.
See that guy?
Is that Dale?
That's Dale. I miss his face.
I miss Dale. I'm so proud of Dale. He's made such a good career of his life.
So proud of you.
I don't know. I didn't ask Randy.
I think it's going to be an all scope circuit.
No. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. He might just, I don't know. He can't fish the MPFL because it's too much time away from the family. Okay. It's funny.
He's already winning that one.
He's winning that one. He's got that figured out. Yeah. Are you fishing it, Phil? Yeah, me and Marfell are going to do it. I love that tournament. The Warrior William tournament at Lake of the Ozarks. It benefits Rett syndrome. Man, They only allow 100 boats. It's probably full by now, but if you guys like fishing benefits and for a good cause and you fish Lake of the Ozarks, that is something you definitely need to jump in. It's $200 team tournament, but they feed you Friday night and Saturday. They have a huge amount of raffles, giveaways and stuff. It's like it's a really, really cool deal. I mean, they could bump it up to 200.
When is that one?
200. It's let me see here. It is, Phil will probably get it before I will. It's in October.
So it's coming up. It's
October 9th and 10th.
I got you.
So 9th is the meeting, 10th is a Saturday. That's the Derby. Man, it's fun. I look forward to it every year. Yeah, it's a good time. But like I said, they could sell it out with 200 boats, but they don't want to do that. They want to keep it small, keep it intimate, because that's part of the whole deal. Is like everybody that's fished it the first year, they've kept coming back. So it fills up pretty quick. There's probably a few stops or a few spots still open. Okay, Philip says it wasn't full yet. It's got to be really close, for sure. Weekend after the Big Bass Bash. Yeah, look at those actually getting crazy. I'm fishing a super tournament down there. I just jumped into that one too, as a co. I haven't fished Lake of the Ozarks since this spring, I guess. Yeah, I tell you what, man. I fished when I won my boat, that regional at Pickwick. I practiced with Brock Bila, which shout out to Brock Bila. He won the Opens overall points division, which is that's phenomenal.
Pretty solid.
Oh, yeah, we called it on the live stream too when he was on here. I don't think you were here that one, but anyway, I had Clint and Brock on. I think no, who did I have on there? I had Brock and I can't remember who was on here. Anyway, he was on here, and I was like, yeah, you're gonna win it. Anyway, I got to fish with Brock in practice for that Pickwick tournament. He had like a 19-inch live scope, and man, it was sick. It was like you couldn't miss. It felt like you couldn't miss the screen. It was so big. It just like it found your bait no matter where you threw almost.
If I had a 19-inch screen, I know exactly what would find that screen. It'd be a half-ounce jig.
Yeah, you definitely want to have the sun cover on when you're not using it. Like a 1.25 ounce tungsten weight. But those graphs are like $5,000, man.
I'm out. Well, not only are they $5,000, you have to have a slave unit to feed into that. So you can't just have you just can't hook that up to your transducer. So
you'll have to watch my videos and try to cross-reference using like landmarks and background information. I don't know. There's some guys.
GPT.
Yeah, there's some guys that can figure that stuff out, man. They can just tell by the certain kind of rock and stuff. I don't know if I told this, but there was a video I did this spring, Kentucky Lake, and I'm way back in this cove. There's no houses, docks, break walls, no nothing. It's on the east side in one of those bays. And I caught a fish off this laydown. And it's a chesty view. So it's not like pole cam where you can see a lot around. It's chesty, so it's really kind of tight. I'm flipping like flip around and find out a big beaver style bait or whatever. And I catch a fish, and this lady comments that was like her favorite laydown. They've caught like a bunch of fish off that laydown in the past. And I'm like, how in the heck do you know where that exact laydown is? I mean, I don't know if she was just messing with me, but I don't think she was. I think she knew that laydown. So people can tell. It's easy to do. No, I don't, man. Phil, it sucks. Dion, we always had Dion on for the Big Bass Bash stuff, and man, I really miss that guy. I really miss it. They're doing a benefit tournament, I think, for him.
I saw that.
Yeah, which that'd be cool. And then I know last year on the Sunday after the Warrior William, they had that AFCO tournament. I don't know if they're doing that again, but that was fun. You can get in one tournament on Saturday and then get in another tournament on Sunday.
You fished that one too?
Yeah, me and Mike jumped in that one. It was fun. We did better in that one. We lost some fish in the Warrior William. Jumped the fish off. It's the first time I think I've ever had swung a keeper in the boat. Was holding it, or was holding my line. The keeper drops off, hits the deck, and goes right back in the drink before I could do it. I was like, it happened so quick. It was just that kind of day. I got it on video. It's like, well, what can you do? It happens. But yeah, I'll try to get somebody on here. Maybe Jim Deal or Jack Uxa or Brock, some of those Ozark guys, just to come on here and chew the fat with them about it. So anyway, went 2 hours. Man, great crowd. Thanks everybody for showing up. Try to do these every Tuesday night. So if you liked what you saw tonight, we'll try to have something set up for you next Tuesday. And check out the channel. I drop videos on Wednesdays and Fridays. I'm pretty consistent. So it's all stuff around this area, but we appreciate everybody coming on here. A lot of new faces. Hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot of good stuff out there. Randy's he's a polarizing figure for sure. He's got his opinions and he doesn't really sway much away from those opinions. And there's no really need to try to, pigeonhole him or gotcha or set him up or stuff, because we already know, we know where he comes at. But I do appreciate him coming on and being able to discuss, the topics. And, he didn't like push back really hard. He said his stuff, but he didn't call me an idiot or anything for, giving a little bit of an opposing view. But we were also respectful. The comment section chat was somewhat respectful. So anyway, thanks for coming on. JB, it's cool hanging out with you.
Always.
And
we should do it not through the computer screen next time.
Oh yeah, I got a seat for you.
I might have to come. We may have to go back old school and make